know, each week we have different speakers facilitating on various topics from our scriptures. For today, for this week, we have Anuttama. So just to give a brief bio about Anuttama, he decided to choose the path of Krishna consciousness after reading the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How incredible is that, isn't it? So that was his journey to Krishna consciousness, where he read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he later got in touch with disciples of Srila Prabhupada while he was studying his undergrad program at UBC, University of British Columbia. He then resided in Calgary for about 5 years, where he was very much involved with book distribution and doing a lot of Western outreach and classes and kirtan. Recently, he moved to the GTA, and he's also undergone training in Iskcon's GBC college courses, and he currently serves as a zonal duty officer for book distribution across Canada. Professionally, he is an engineer, and he continues to serve across various centers within the GTA. But this is the first time for Anuttama for speaking at our weekly Sunday program. So let's give a big round of applause and welcome him.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, perfect. That's important because otherwise you might not hear anything. Yeah, okay, that's good. So we will be, thank you for the introduction. So I'm honored to have this opportunity to give discourse, and we'll have some time for questions and answers in the end. As that's a really important part of our tradition. So first I would like to just talk about spiritual literatures. It's really important that, you know, we have literatures, we have books, and one may think that, well, I'm not really a reader, and I wasn't a reader at all. I never liked reading growing up. I actually hated reading. Maybe comic books, well, that's about it. So, but what really changed was like Srimad Bhagavatam. I was searching, soul searching in life. What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? How do I find happiness? And I found Srimad Bhagavatam, and it really resonated with me. So we have to think of, we have the Bhagavatam, the Gita, all these literatures. They're not just ordinary books. They are non-different from Krishna. So just like we have Krishna in the form of deity, we have a Krishna in the form of the Maha Mantra, so we have Krishna in the form of beautiful Bhagavatam. So we have to think of, change our perspective that the Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, and we are here to really honor and worship Krishna by reading and studying the Bhagavatam. So prior to even approaching sacred texts like the Gita or Bhagavatam, we should have set an intention. And that intention should be of gratitude, on reverence for sure, and also devotion. And I think that's really, really important. So before we even begin, we should have that. And we usually do that by offering prayers. And these prayers are listed in page 1 of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita as it is what I'll be reading from. And there's, we'll also mention the English translations after that. So. If you would like to chant along with me, if you know the prayers, that's great. If not, if you're here for the first time, you can just kind of enjoy as we go along, and then we'll go through the discourse. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and the spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I therefore offer my obeisances unto him. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Samvediti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shrivadi Pashyata Deshatari. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Krishna, taking shelter at His lotus feet. O Master, our obeisance unto you, servant of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You're kindly spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western countries, which is full of voidism and impersonalism. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasati Gaura Bhakti. I offer my obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivas, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's the Maha Mantra, which encompasses all other mantras that are out there, addressing the energy of the Lord and the Lord Himself to be engaged in the service. So, reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, titled Transcendental Knowledge, and we will be reading from text 38. Nahi jnanena sadrasham pavitram iha vidyate tam swayam yoga samsiddha kalena anivindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who was become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of bondage, and knowledge is the cause of liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. That is the last word in the Bhagavad Gita. So we see here, if you go into the translation, it says, in this world, which is the physical world we live in, there's nothing so sublime. Now you may wonder, what's sublime? It's always good to have a dictionary whenever you're reading Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada's English can be quite technical and complex. So in the translation it says there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. So sublime being something that's very high, probably the highest, so nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge, which means knowledge, if you look at it, transcendental, which means that which is beyond or that which is above. So transcendental to what exactly? Well, the physical world and also time. So you have 3 dimensions and you have a time dimensions, and the knowledge is really beyond that. And it's also very sublime, which means it's the most sublime philosophy, the highest philosophy. So we understand from the translation that the knowledge that's been given to us by Krishna, passed down to our Brahma, coming down to the acharyas, spiritual teachers or holy teachers, we're really grateful for that, because usually this knowledge is not so accessible. It's kind of limited to a certain community, but Srila Prabhupada really brought this out to the West and made it really accessible for us. So it's really important that we access spiritual knowledge on a daily basis, because knowledge can really purify us. And as mentioned in the purport, the knowledge is there for our liberation, and we always want to be liberated. We don't want to be always bound by the actions and reactions of karma, right? So that's really important. So the knowledge is really there to reflect upon how we act in this world. It's really important to really absorb the knowledge on a daily basis, ideally, just like how we take a shower every day. It's a good habit. So similarly, if we think of, and those are pictures of the spiritual teachers, so Krishna and then Lord Brahma and Narada, and then I believe there's Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Lord Vishwadas Babaji and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada imparting knowledge unto the disciples. So we follow this chain of discipline succession. So it's really important that whatever knowledge you attain, it's coming through a discipline succession. So that's why we have Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we want to make sure that that knowledge, that wisdom is preserved time over time. At the same time, make it accessible. Because if you see, Prabhupada and his guru were both against the caste system. where one is born in a certain family, they get elevated, or one's born in a certain family, they get degraded or thought of differently. But they were against that. They were said that if you have the qualifications, you have the qualities, you're fit to be a Brahmin, you're fit to worship on the altar. So Prabhupada he married kind of this tradition and modernity at the same time. So that's one of the cutting edge things about Srila Prabhupada and all our acharyas. So we understand that, the Gita, even though we may think of it as something complicated, we can access it simply by offering a simple prayer. Spend 5-10 minutes a day just reading, the wisdom so that we get absorbed in it. And it's really there to purify us. It really helps us, puts us in a good mental headspace. And that's really important for us because in this day and age with a lot of distractions, the wisdom can really pull us out and take us to really good places. So it's really good to have access to wisdom, which we do. So if you are a follower of Prabhupada or consider yourself you say Jai Prabhupada, well, if you say that, then you should have a full set of Srila Prabhupada's books, because Srila Prabhupada very much painstakingly transcribed and translated all these books at night for our benefit. So having these wisdom literatures at home itself gives a positive vibration. So we think of, okay, we're coming to the temple, we're having darshan, we have a really good experience, it's really positive, I feel really great. But then when we go out, we feel like, okay, the material energy is there to overcome us, overtake us. But if you have a set of Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam especially, it has such a positive vibration that you can be at home and still access Krishna in the form of literature. So Krishna is there in the form of the deity, Krishna is there in the spiritual world, and Krishna is there in the form of his words, and these words are transcribed and written in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam and so on. So who here has a set of Bhagavatams at home? Can you raise your hands? Nice and high. Okay, so you can ask any one of these individuals, is there a difference by having a Bhagavatam at home? Is there a difference by having a daily spiritual practice? Is there a difference in your life where you have access to this wisdom? So this wisdom can be lost. It can be distorted. It can be destroyed. So it's really up to us to really share and preserve this wisdom over time. So one of the unique things about this wisdom is it's able to predict things in the future. So if I were to say, for example, 2,500 years from now, there is a certain personality that is born in a certain place, is the son of a parent whose name's already given, the name of that person, and what that person's purpose is. Do you think that's impressive? That 2,500 years from now, I'm able to predict the person's name, the person's, what the person's purpose is, who's their parent, right, and which place they're born in. Who thinks that's kind of impressive? 2,500 years from now. Okay, so the Bhagavatam does that. So let's go to Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse 24. The title is Krishna, the source of all incarnations. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is a text that was written 5,000 years ago, and it was all about Krishna's pastimes. So it's different from Bhagavad Gita. So if you go to this text, we see that the Bhagavatam, even though it was written 5,000 years ago, it says, in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha, son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theist. So we understand Lord Buddha exists. There's so many temples related to Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha is right there beside the altar on that pillar. So, but this Bhagavatam, being 5,000 years old, predict Lord Buddha's birth 2,500 years later. So the Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva and is really there for our own good, to promote us from, say, we might be dilly-dallying in the mode of darkness or passion, to really promote us to that mode of goodness lifestyle. And when we live in such a lifestyle, it complements our chanting or our meditation practice really well. Otherwise, sometimes we may chant and get distracted, or maybe go outside and may not understand how to be in this world and how to act. whereas the Bhagavatam, the Gita really teaches that. So we all know that he's one of the Leela incarnations, Lord Buddha of the Lord. So here we see that the Bhagavatam predicts that very much then. So we must have some faith, just like I'm sitting here. I hope this chair doesn't collapse, right? So I have some faith. So similarly, we must have some faith that this knowledge, the Gita, the Bhagavatam, is there for it's there for a purpose, and it's there for our very good. And just by keeping that open-mindedness, we can really access the Gita better. If I were to go to a university and I have a professor, and if I'm challenging him all the time, I don't believe what he's saying, you can never learn like that. So you have to have some faith or some humility in the beginning to show that, okay, I'm just going to listen, I'm going to keep an open mind, I'm going to question, because as you see, Krishna and Arjuna, Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit, it's all about question and answers in Vedic culture. So the best way to access this is to get a hold of this wisdom, make sure that you have a reading program on a daily basis. Just like we take a shower, we brush our teeth, we must also cleanse the consciousness with chanting and reading. And this really helps us with dealing with all the issues and equip us properly. We see a lot of challenges that devotees faced in the Bhagavatam, and they really overcame it. So having a reading program is really important because you yourself are able to absorb yourself in the wisdom. So Albert Einstein said that I bathe my intellect in the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, we have to also think of this, that we have this wonderful wisdom, why would we access it? Prabhupada mentioned that if you're sitting on gold but begging for glass, do you think that's kind of an odd situation? If you're sitting on gold but you're begging for glass, who thinks that's a little bit odd? Okay, so Prabhupada mentioned that sometimes when we think of this knowledge which exists, but we think of material life as the ultimate goal, then we're sitting on gold, but we're begging for glass. That's the analogy that's given. So, does anybody want any future predictions, future prophecies in the Bhagavatam? Want to see that? Okay, so let's go to Canto 12, Chapter 2, Verse 1. I gotta put it up myself. So this is the smallest canto. So, because we need to have faith. This is what this literature is all about. It's the symptoms of Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga is the age we're in, and it shows you some of the signs. So again, 5,000 years ago, and it says in the I'll just go through the translations only. So Sukadeva Goswami, who's the speaker of the Bhagavatam, says, "Then, O king, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration, life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day, all because of powerful influence of the age of Kali." So we see this that, I was in Montreal this past week, and we saw some beautiful, beautiful churches. And I asked one of the locals nearby, like, "Oh, such wonderful churches, beautiful architecture." And I was told that all these churches are practically empty. So it was kind of disheartening to hear that. But we see that this prediction where, this whole notion of, truthfulness, cleanliness, dharma, tolerance, mercy, physical strength, memory diminish day by day. So Kali is so powerful that it happens that. So next verse. Let's go to the next verse. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth. So I'll just stop there and say that, this applies to men and women. Prabhupada, when he wrote this, that was kind of the connotation back in those days. So in Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior and fine qualities. And law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. So we see here that you can be the most heinous criminal, the most unethical person, But as long as you have a good lawyer, you're good, right? so the Bhagavatam very much predicts this, that you can get away with stuff and people are doing that. And you can also see wealth alone will be considered a person's good birth, behavior, and fine qualities. So it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you have lots of money, that's considered good qualities. This as opposed to saying a person's characteristics are the good qualities. So so it shows you that in Kali Yuga things will degrade. So that's why when we are surrounded with all these different influences, different distractions, it's really good to ground us with texts like the Gita and the Bhagavatam, and it really gives you a positive vibration. And we always want to have positive vibes. We may have a coffee mug or a little saying that positive vibes only, right? But how do you access those positive vibes? It comes through good association, so positive association like you are having here. It comes through absorption in spiritual vibration through the Hare Krishna mantra, as well as chanting, reading the Gita. And it doesn't take that long to read the Gita if you're looking at it from a perspective of, I'm just going to read the translations only, and if you do for certain chapters, it may take as little as 10 minutes to do so. Because oftentimes the complaint is, I don't have time. I have no time. This is always, but if you have time for scrolling down your screen or scrolling up, I'm sure you just have to make the effort towards Krishna, and Krishna will make sure that time is there for you. You'll have a much more concentrated day, you'll feel a lot more calm, and as a result of being peaceful, you can be happy. Without peacefulness, there's no happiness. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, in order to be peaceful, we have to equip ourselves with all these tools, which is having a daily meditation practice, absorbing ourselves with good vibration, and making a goal, say that, okay, I want to read the Bhagavad Gita in 1 year, I want to read the Bhagavatam in 5 years. Well, you have free apps that are available that will help you download that. And once you get access to that, you'll find the highest happiness. We spend, thousands of dollars in, heating bills for a couple of years, or going to India, or going on pilgrimage, or buying some, expensive gadgets. But I would say consider it an investment in your life to get a set of wisdom literatures that are widely available in whatever language you want, so that you can access them and find that you can get free from birth and death, as well as any sort of anxiety that plagues you. So yeah, that's a little bit a teaser from Bhagavatam, which is a text that I love more because it's so descriptive and wonderful. And I advise that those who have it, who raise their hands, you can ask them questions on how it is. And those that don't and curious about it, you can definitely ask me or ask any of the people at the book table. There's some wonderful literatures there, and just take a whole bunch home and start reading them on a daily basis. Make it a spiritual practice of reading books, because knowledge is the cause of liberation, but all of our material desires is the cause of bondage. So thank you. Hare Krishna. And I will take some time for some questions, because I want to leave some time for some questions. So if you have any kind of practical questions, or I know Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, was very particular about time, so I want to end on time, so everybody gets to the announcements and prasadam, and I don't want to be between you and prasadam, or me in between you and prasadam. So yeah, any questions, any comments?
You can raise your hand.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Yeah, so you can raise your hand and a microphone will come to you, and you can ask anything that's there. Okay, we have a question in the back.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you so much. Prabhu, as you were saying about the good vibes and all, so how can we be a good inspiration to transfer that good vibes to everyone?
Excellent question. So, if you want to give somebody else water and they have an empty glass and this glass is full, you can or you have, say, a bottle of water, I would say, you can pour it in as long as you have that water, right? So main thing is we're containers, and we can be containers full of good, pure goodness, and that comes from just being available to others. So you yourself absorbing the spiritual vibration and just being available to others. I was flying from Edmonton to Toronto, and I had this Bhagavatam in my front seat pocket. I wasn't there to do book distribution. I was just, minding my own business, had my earplugs on, chanting japa. I had this on. So a lady next to me, she's, you wouldn't think she would be interested, but she's from Muslim background, and she's like, oh, what is this book? And I said, this book goes all about bhakti yoga, devotion to the Supreme. And she said, and I showed her some verses about, the highest dharma being selfless love to the transcendental Lord and all that. And she said, okay, I want a book. So, you just have to be available to others. That's the main thing, is you first absorbing it, so be acting in a way that's reflective of the tradition, as well as just being an instrument in Lord Chaitanya's service. And that's the main thing, is chanting and absorbing the wisdom and then sharing the wisdom. You can even have a small study group, get together in a circle, everybody sit on their living rooms, and just, open the book together and read together. We also do like a Bhagavatam installation ceremony. So if anybody's interested in taking a Bhagavatam set, who likes free stuff, by the way? Anybody? Free stuff? Okay. So those who want some free stuff, I have an offer for you. So if you take a Srimad Bhagavatam set, I'd be happy to come to your house and do a Bhagavatam installation ceremony, which is a ceremony we get together, get your friends and family together, we'll do some chanting, some kirtan, and we'll read the Bhagavatam together and really jumpstart your journey in spiritual consciousness. And when you do that, you'll find this is the best investment in your life. You can invest in so many different things. You can you can spend 1 month in filling up your tank of gas in your car, and it will take you only here, but by buying a Bhagavatam, it will take you to the spiritual world. So, good question, Hare Krishna. So we'll have time. Oh, we are out of time. No, we have time for one question. Okay. Okay, perfect.
Hare Krishna, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
So, sir, in Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 30 Yoga,
Yes.
okay, what the transcription from Prabhupada is that in both mode of passion and mode of wrath, okay, if you are putting it to Krishna, okay, it gets absorbed out over there. Now, what I'm trying to understand is that what is the fine line between what we are doing in our mundane word-to-word kind of a things, being a businessman or being an entrepreneur or mundane activities out over there, that when we say we are in the mode of passion out over there, then is it okay? And other thing is like what we say we have to have minimalistic and get entangled from Maya. So both of these things are kind of confusing in each other.
Yeah.
And how do you draw the fine line between where is the mode of passion and wrath, or whatever the four sects according to which the division of as per Bhagavad Gita and what we should be doing there? I hope you got my question.
Gabriel, would you able to pull up Canto 11, chapter 5, verse 12?
Perfect. So basically, we as householders must live a life that's for self-preservation and not self-glorification. The Bhagavatam first canto talks about this. I hope this is the one. So just go down the purport. Yep, go down. So yeah, it says when a foolish. So go down. Keep on going a little bit. Okay, yeah. Actually, even in family life, one should use one's wealth for spiritual advancement for oneself and one's family. And yeah, keep going. In the Krishna conscious movements, they are very religious householders who live a simple, peaceful life. So that's the key. You have people living all sorts of lifestyles around you, but the simple, peaceful life of a grihastha is so important. Like when I was first coming to Krishna consciousness, I went to a person's house who was practicing Krishna consciousness, his wife, kids, very simple life. I mean, he's a little more austere. He doesn't even have a cell phone, doesn't even have a TV. But I saw, okay, he's living a life of simplicity, and then uses the
wealth for arranging Krishna conscious activities at home. So have programs where you get together and read Gita and Bhagavatam, and then help the renounced brahmacharis and sannyasis who are actively preaching consciousness in public places. So okay, we help support the other ashramas. Such householders, even though they're not able to dedicate 100% energy to Krishna consciousness, gradually acquire a solid understanding of the spiritual principles of life and eventually become transcendentalists firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. So there is a guarantee that Prabhupada says, or Prabhupada's disciples rather, because it's Canto 11, that is a guarantee that even though we may be engaged in a householder life, but by purifying our wealth slowly, by putting gas in the car to come to the temple, that is wealth related to Krishna, going to the grocery store, which is not cheap these days, groceries are very expensive, so that is, you're buying groceries for Krishna, going to the marketplace for Krishna. So think of that as a Krishna conscious way of engaging your wealth. We have to think things a little bit differently. It's not just, okay, I give a donation in the box. It's, well, I bought a book, right? Well, that book supports book printing of wisdom literatures, and I encourage that if you don't have our books, we have a couple of book tables, go, grab some books and read them. Have a home program where you read the books together. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. So we'll end there, and if you have any further questions, or if you were shy to ask a question, you can ask me later. But now we will go to announcements. It's 7:10, and Prabhupada was particular about time, so I know time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing your realization on Srimad Bhagavatam. As you all know, having a Srimad Bhagavatam just at home can be life-changing, and reading them every day can bring even more better results and auspiciousness. And Prabhu is a great example of how Srimad Bhagavatam has been life-changing for himself and his family. Let's give a big round of applause for Prabhu for speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam. As Prabhu mentioned, he's going to be around if you have any questions on Srimad Bhagavatam, or if you'd like to personally get yourself a copy for yourself or for your friends. It's a great gift. We often give a lot of different gifts for families and friends on different occasions, but Srimad Bhagavatam is a wonderful gift which you can all share with your family and friends. So I encourage all of you to check out some of our books, which is there on the rear end of the temple hall as well as the hallway. And of course, you can speak to Prabhu as well if you have any further